Okay, so today we are going to be making one of my very favorite recipes. I call it cheeky chowder. Each spring walleye season we save all the cheeks from our walleye to make this recipe, and we look forward to it every year. So we're going to start by melting 6 tablespoons of butter over medium-high heat. We're going to add a little bit of this homemade ramp butter that we make every year just for a little extra flavor in there. Okay, so now that our butter is all melted down, we're going to add 1 cup of chopped celery and 1 large yellow onion. We're going to let these saute in here until they're softened up a little bit. And then we're going to add our flour to make a roux. So now that the celery and onions are all softened up in there, for a couple minutes, we're going to mix in a half a cup of flour. This will create our roux. Okay, so now we are going to whisk in 8 cups of milk. We are using whole milk from the Amish store. By far the best milk I've ever tasted in my whole life. I want to give this a good stirring. It breaks up any of that flour that was sticking around. Now that that's all mixed together, we are going to add 4 cups of cubed potatoes, about 10 pieces of chopped bacon. And we got some mushrooms here, so these are morel mushrooms and hen of the woods. Freeze them on cookie sheets and then put them in our food sealer. It's by far the best way I have found to preserve them. As long as you cook them frozen, don't let them thaw out before you cook them. You can almost barely tell the difference between something picked fresh and something that's been frozen for 6 months. And all those little pieces that you normally wouldn't want to plate up and serve, we save all those separate and keep them in a separate bag so you can put them in soups and stews like this. So now we're going to reduce the heat on this to a simmer, cover it up, let it go for about 30 minutes till these potatoes are cooked down, and then we will add our walleye cheeks. So right now I am cooking the walleye cheeks separately, and since we did a double batch, I don't typically do this, but I added some walleye fillets as well. So I wanted to show you guys why I like to use the cheeks. You can see the cheeks have really held up, and the walleye fillets themselves have kind of started to fall apart a little. They will add a lot of extra flavor and texture to the soup, but those cheeks really hold their shape. Something else to be noted as well, a lot of these recipes call to just put the fish in without cooking it first. And this goes for the mushrooms too. In my opinion, anytime you can cook a portion of the soup separately and season it, it really adds to the layers of flavor for a chowder like this. I tend to just try to cook these things to the point where I would be happy to serve it separately on a plate flavor-wise. That way, once you get into the soup itself, every bite has a little bit of extra flavor. That being said, since you add all these seasonings before, you definitely want to mix the soup up really well and try it before adding any extra salt or pepper or anything like that, because a lot of that seasoning will come off in the soup. And you don't want to go overboard with the salt and pepper. So this chowder has been simmering for about 30 minutes or so. I tested one of the potatoes to make sure that it was soft before adding the walleye cheeks. Another thing to mention about cream-based soups like this is not a set it and forget it type soup. This was a big batch, so I had to work the heat a little bit to get it up to a simmer. But you want to make sure it doesn't get too hot or you will break the cream and the cream will separate, and the soup will not turn out very good. So we're just going to stir this around really good, make sure all the seasonings get mixed through before I decide to add any more salt or pepper, and this will be ready to serve.